Hello and welcome to BFS Wargaming. So today we are doing a tactica video, but it's slightly different. So we're going to be doing a series talking about each faction and what you can maybe expect from that faction when you play them. I'll be covering the main points like obviously the army rules and then the what I would call the best dynasties, or if it's an index army, we'll just be covering the index that is out for detachment that's out for them. So we are going to start with Necrons because it is the faction I play the most and I know the best. So we're going to go through and we're going to talk about the Awakened Dynasty, the Kaptic Core, and the Hyperphase Legion because they are the three I would say most played. I'd say Kaptic Core and Hyperphase on top, but I also think Awakened is still a very good attachment. So we're going to talk about that as well. So we're going to talk about maybe some of the things that they can do that maybe you don't know, so that when you do play them, when you come across them, you won't get gotcha'd and you'll sort of know some of the things that they can do. We'll talk a little bit about units and maybe some of the prominent units and what they can do as well. So we're going to start off and we're going to be looking, obviously, this is the army rules. So we have reanimation protocols. Reanimation protocols is the long and the short of it is they get per unit you get D3 wounds back, so you can end up getting models back or heal up a vehicle or monster or something like that. So every unit gets it, and yeah, you basically gonna get 1 to 3 wounds back and on each unit. And then there's things like the reanimator, which then can give you that twice. So if you're in 3 inches of a reanimator, you'll be able to get 2d3 back instead of d3 back. Okay, so that is the army rule. So we're going to head into the Awakened Dynasty. So the Awakened Dynasty is every unit gets +1 to hit if they're being led by a leader. So Valor Darkness is a teleport. So this is something you've got to look out for because they can do it first turn. So they have the enhancement on a unit. Say that's a unit of Locust Destroyers. They could pick them up at the end of your first turn and they can bring them down in their first turn and maybe kill something that's quite important or kill you off an objective or something like that. So it's just something you need to watch out for there. We have the Netherrealm Casket, which gives your unit the stealth ability, which is quite nice. We have the Phasal Subjugator, which is basically you get +1 to hit if you're within 6 inches of it, but you don't count as being led anymore. And then the Anagic Dermal Bond is a 4-up feel no pain on a Necron model. Necron's model only. So that is, it's very nice to put on a character. If you've got a spare 15 points in the list, you might just stick that on a character. So let's talk about some of the stratagems that are good in this build. So you remember stuff like Wraiths who maybe haven't got great output with the stratagem, which is Protocol of the Hungry Void. You can get +1 strength, so you take them to strength 7, and then you improve the AP if they're being led, which they usually are by the Technomancer. So your strength 7 -2 damage. It actually makes them Wraiths a lot more effective in combat because at the moment they're not that effective. So it's just something you've got to look out for. Then Wraiths could suddenly turn quite killy. And they'd also be +1 to hit, so you'd be hitting on 3s instead of 4s as Wraiths. So yeah, it's a really nice combination there. Then also you could play that on, for instance, Scorpec Destroyers, making them even more AP, even killier. Then they're getting rerolls to hit, and they're hitting on 2s if they're being led. It's very, very nice. That we have the Protocol of the Undying Legions stratagem, which is really nice. If you get shot or if you get hit in combat and your unit survives, you can play the stratagem and then you can reanimate, and you can reanimate D3 +1 if you have a character. So that's really strong. And that can be the difference between keeping yourself on an objective or not. So look out for that one as well. And then we have any more prominent ones. You can give a unit Assault, which is nice. Bringing a character back to life for 1 CP. The Protocol of the Vengeful Stars is really strong. You can do it on any infantry character. You can do it on Caesares. Luminous Caesares, which is really strong. But there's so many times that could come up in a game where it could change the game. You could kill something on an objective, suddenly bang, pops up again. like, you know, could then cause you some issues there. You can only do it on each character once per game, but you know, it's really nice. Sorry, that's not Protocol of Vengeful Stars. It is Protocol of the Conquering Tyrant. Yeah. So no, it's not. Where is it? Hungry Void, Reanimation. Oh, sorry, it's Protocol of the Eternal Revenant. Where they can come back. So that was the Awakened Dynasty. There's loads of every unit basically that you're going to take characters like Immortals with characters, they get better in it. Like I said, Wraiths, Scorpic Destroyers, Lockhusk Destroyers, a lot of those units then get really nice when you're using them in the Awakened Dynasty. And they've got some really strong stratagems in this dynasty, so definitely one to look out for. But they're the main things. I think they're the main things. We'll talk about other units as well, like Immortals getting reroll to wounds while you're on objectives is really strong. Tomb Blades fire and fade in, stuff like that. There's a lot of nice things you can do. The assault stratagem, I'll say as well, for the Protocol of Southern Storm is nice for being able to move and then score objectives and stuff like that, like do actions. So we're not going to look at the Annihilation Legion because it's just not good. Kaptic Core. This is one of the most prominent, along with Hyperphase Legion. You'll see this a lot. So the Kaptic Core is basically you have a power matrix, and if you control, you always have it in your deployment zone. If you control at least half or more of the objectives in No Man's Land, No Man's Land becomes in your power matrix. And then if you control your opponent's objective, then it becomes in your power matrix, the opponent's deployment. So basically, you will get to re-roll the hit roll whilst you're in the power matrix, and you get to roll a hit roll of 1 if you're not in the power matrix. This is only for Cryptex and Canaptic units. So there's a lot of Canaptic units such as Wraiths, Akenfrights, Canaptic Doomstalker, Canaptic Reanimator, Canaptic Spider, Scarabs. So there's quite a few. And then you've got Cryptex, and if you put Cryptex with, say, for instance, Immortals, they then get that as well, or with Warriors. So they're all going to be re-rolling to hit, which is really nice. So let's have a look at some of the enhancements. The Dimensional Sanctum is an enhancement you want to look out for because it will give a unit infiltrate. And you can put it on a Cryptek model. This often goes on a unit of Wraiths. They infiltrate up and they cause you problems early game. Hyperphasic Fulcrum, which is you re-roll a wound roll of 1. If you're in your army's power matrix, it's okay. It's not too bad. The Auto Divinator you'll probably never see because it's a bit circumstantial. And the Metadermal Tesla Weave, again, it's not something you really need to be thinking about. So, what we'll say is something that's really strong in the Canaptic Core is obviously Wraiths because they get to re-roll their hit roll, but also the Canaptic Doomstalkers. Canaptic Doomstalkers normally hitting on 4s, 3s if they stay still, and then they're getting full re-rolls to hit. On top of that, they get to Overwatch on a 5+, so their Overwatch is really strong because they're Overwatching on 5s and they're re-rolling to hit. So it's like an extra shooting for one of them Doomstalkers. So it is really strong. So it's definitely something you want to look out for. That's something that could really catch you off guard because that Canaptic Doomstalker hitting on 5s re-rolling could do some real damage. So we have the reactive subroutines. This is something else you really want to look out with when you're playing Canaptic Core. Reactive subroutines is super strong. So if you move within 9 inches of a Canaptic unit, they can then make a normal move of up to 6 inches. So this is strong because you can then move out of range of something, so that make the charge longer. You could also, maybe if something moves, you could then move on to an objective with a load of Wraiths, which is then like, there's loads of OC. It makes it hard to get the objective off them. But the other thing you can do, which is the thing you need to watch out for, if you move close to Wraiths within 9 inches, they can then do a normal move over you and backwards. So if you're close enough, they can move over you and back, and then they can roll their 7 dice if there's 6 wraiths and a technomancer, 7 dice, and then on 4+, it's a mortal wound. So it's a really strong little thing, and you just want to watch out for it. So don't get too close to them because they'll just fly over you and fly back, and then you suddenly lost like could be up to 7 wounds, which is pretty big. Then we have the Curse of the Cryptek. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you need to worry about it too much. Basically, if a Cryptek model is destroyed, you can add 1 to hit and wound to a unit. For Canaptex, you can get Devastating Wounds ability. It's 2 CP. This was very strong, but now it's a Canaptek or Cryptek model, so it's not as good. But it still could be quite strong with a load of Wraiths. Then we have Solar Pulse to ignore your cover, which is quite nice. This one is another one you've got to look out for, Contemporary Shift. So this is basically you can give a Canaptek unit lone op. So if you suddenly line up a load of stuff to shoot one unit, say a unit of Wraiths, and you're like, right, I'm going to get these off that objective. You've lined all this stuff up and you've forgotten about sort of like, you haven't lined any much of a shooting up. Suddenly he says, you can't shoot them outside of 12 inches. You're like, oh, now my whole army can't shoot because I just lined up to shoot that and I'm not within 12 inches of it. Or maybe you've only got one unit that's in 12 inches of it and you're like, oh, I'm never going to kill these now. So it's something you really have to look out for with Kaptic Core because that could catch you really off guard. Then we have Suboptimal Facade. You can reactivate your reanimation protocols when an enemy unit charges you. This is very circumstantial, so again, not something you massively have to look out for. But that's the Kaptic Core in a nutshell. The main units are the Wraiths, the Kaptic Doomstalkers, and like Cryptek models with maybe units of Immortals and things like that. They're going to be the mainstay of the army, and they're all getting rerolls to hit. So it's just it becomes quite strong. Overwatch is strong again with those models as well. Immortals like Tesla Immortals, sustained 6s. You're re-rolling that Overwatch. Suddenly, that's a lot of hits. So yeah, it's definitely Overwatch is something you definitely have to watch out for. Watch out for that reactive move and also the lone op. They're the big gotchas in that one. So definitely things you want to look out for in that list. And you want to try and make sure their power matrix isn't up as much as possible. Try and really take them at least half of them objectives and keep them off. That is key to stop their output being anywhere near as good. Okay, we're not going to do the OBS as Phalanx because again, it's not that good, and I don't think that many people will play it. There needs to be probably a few changes in here to make this warranted. So yeah, we won't worry about that too much. Okay, the Hypercrypt Legion. Hypercrypt Legion. So the detachment rule is basically you can pick up 3 units if you're playing a strike force battle at the end of your turn, and they go into strategic reserves. So you can bring them back on when you want. So we'll talk about the enhancements. So enhancement wise, we have Dimensional Overseer is where basically you can get an extra unit. So you better pick up 4 units in a strike force battle, which is nice. And then we have Arisen Tyrant, which is you can re-roll a hit roll of 1, but if you dropped in, so you're picking them up, dropping them back in, you can re-roll the hit roll, which is really, really good, especially if you have something like a Plasmancer with a unit of Immortals or a Lockcast Lord with a unit of Lockcast Destroyers. You're getting them critical hits on 5s, and then you're re-rolling. It's a lot of crits, so that's really nice. So you want to watch out for that. Then we have Hyperspatial Transfer Node, which is plus 6-inch move. I use this a lot. I have this on my Chronomancer, so I can do an 11-inch move with my Tesla Immortals, still shoot, and then I can fire and fade with them as well. So that unit that becomes really good for being able to move around the board, especially maybe late game, get on objectives, score points in the late game, do actions, all that sort of thing. Then we have the Osteoclave Fulcrum, which gives a unit deep strike. Now this is really strong. For instance, if you put this on a Lockhust Lord, you can then pick them up, and then you can bring them unit of Lockhust destroyers down in deep strike rather than having to be from strategic reserves. Gives you loads more options to get angles on stuff to kill stuff. I really like that enhancement for that unit. I'm sure it's good on other units as well. So that's basically the enhancements covered. So in the hyperphase detachment, the things that are quite often taken are stuff like monolith, and you'll see why, because there's a lot of monolith related stratagems. You then have another thing that's taken a lot in hyperphase is Catans, because you can pick them up and bounce around the board because they only move 6 inches. You can then move them about a little bit better. You can also, like, I mean, in my list, I take Immortals because you can pick them up, bring them down. They're usually quite good, and obviously it's great for point scoring. So I've got Hexmark Destroyers, Death Marks, things like that. Little units that have got deep strike that you can pick up, put down, score points. You know, maybe shoot some stuff. So yeah. So by far the strongest stratagem in this detachment, and the one that you definitely want to look out for, is the Cosmic Precision. So this gives any unit that is in the hyperphase or deep strike, you can set them up 3 inches away from an enemy unit, and it overrides the strategic reserves rule where you have to come in from 6 inches from the board edge. So you can put a strategic reserves unit anywhere on the board 3 inches away. So you can steal people's objectives, you can come on, shoot something, and maybe if you've got a Tesla Immortal unit, you could drop them in with a Chronomancer. You could shoot an objective, shoot a unit off an objective, and then fire and fade onto it. So it's a really strong thing and something you want to be looking out for. So, monolith. Let's talk about the monolith. And also remember, if you were to go first and the Necron player goes second, they can pick up at the end of your turn, and anything with the deep strike keyword they can bring down on turn 1. So you want to be looking out for that. End up with a monolith in your back line like Matt Laura did in the LVO, stuff like that. So it's a very strong mechanic. So we have hyperphase recall. So this is only relevant if they are playing a monolith. So basically, if someone shoots a unit of, say, mortals, or any Immortals is the best, probably mortals or warriors. Someone shoots that unit, kills a couple of models. You can then, for 2 CP, teleport them, or your opponent can teleport them to the monolith and get them right out of danger. So it's something you've got to watch for. If you're thinking, oh, I'm going to kill these, line a load of stuff up to kill it, you shoot with one unit first, a few of them survive, they go teleport, bang, and then they can get reanimation and get them out of harm's way. So obviously as well with the monolith's ability, the monolith can teleport a unit to them. So you could drop a monolith in from deep strike, you could then teleport a unit of immortals across and then shoot with the monolith and the immortals. So something to look out for. The immortals can't charge though. Then we have quantum deflection, which gives you a 4-up invuln. You could put that on a vehicle. You can put that on the only really relevant ones are probably a Doom Scythe or a monolith. Reanimation crypts, so people can reanimate in reserve. It's not something your opponent probably needs to worry about. If you're playing Necrons, you need to worry about. Like I said, Cosmic Precision, by far the strongest one. Then we have Dimensional Corridor. So, in your charge phase, one Necrons unit from your army that was set up on the battlefield using the Eternate Gate ability of the monolith. So, if the monolith started on the board, they could teleport, let's say, a unit of Scorpec Destroyers to the monolith, and then they could pay 2 CP in the charge phase, and then that unit is eligible to charge. So it's something you really want to look out for there, because you could end up getting smacked by a unit of Scorpex who have only got to make a 3-inch charge, and they're going to be re-rolling to hit because they get that on the charge. Strength 7, -2, 2 damage, could be lethal. So it's a really nice stratagem, but the monolith does have to start on the board. So be aware of that. If there's a monolith that hasn't gone up into deep strike or something is there, if you get close to it, they could teleport an infantry unit to it. And then entropic dampening, this is something that would very rarely come up, but you need to be aware that if you shoot at a Titanic model, target a Titanic model, they can make your guns hazardous. So suddenly, if you shoot in like a 10, 20 man unit at a monolith, he's like, right, bang, all your guns are hazardous. You have to roll for each gun, and suddenly that's a lot of rolls you've got, and you're probably going to end up losing a few of them guys. So that is the Hyperphase Legion, or Hypercrypt Legion, sorry, in a nutshell. They are some of the things you need to look out for when playing Necrons. I'm trying to think if there's any other units. I mean, we've talked a little bit about Catans. Catans are just very strong because they have a 4-up invuln and a 5-up feel no pain inbuilt. So it does make them strong, and then they're quite hard at hitting, but they do only have 6-inch move, so you usually can get around that. I can't think. I think we've covered most of the units that are probably you're going to see in play. Like Doomsday Arcs, maybe another one. If you watch my channel, then you've probably seen Doomsday Arcs in action. They're strength 18, d6 plus 1 shots, at minus 4 damage. So they are very nice, and then they have the flare arrays as well, which are good. But yeah, I think I've covered most of the stuff you want to look out for when you're playing Necrons. Some of the stuff you might get gotcha'd with, or just things you want to think about when you're playing against Necrons. I think any more information I give you than this, then it will just start to you'll forget it anyway. If I start going through every unit's abilities and stuff like that, I think these are the main ones you really want to look out for, and I've covered the main units that you're going to see in Necrons armies at the moment. I hope you enjoyed this, guys, and I hope you learned something from it. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.